Welcome back, everybody, for another Just Peter. Today we have a special guest, Matt Holzmann, the channel director of Leapwork. Matt has a vast amount of experience in the Microsoft ecosystem and would like to share his thoughts on a couple of points. Let's sit down, relax, and enjoy, and subscribe, and please comment.
Good afternoon, Matt. Welcome. Great to have you there. I think I will just start off quickly. Tell us briefly what you do with Leapwork, who you are, and how you fit into the Dynamics ecosystem.
Sure thing. Thanks, Peter. Great to be chatting with you from across the pond. And my name is Matt Holzmann. I'm the Americas Channel Director, and I primarily focus on our managed services provider program that we've just launched in January, bringing on Microsoft implementation and migration partners so that they can leverage Leapwork for automated testing in their deployments.
Okay, cool. So you do also a lot of test automation, right?
Yes, correct.
So I had a discussion with the MVP regarding test automation. I said, I will skip this session because I don't think I'm the audience for this, but hopefully you as a salesperson can be a little bit more up to my level on this topic. Just to be honest, right? If I go to an MVP session, I'm always stressed out.
Yeah.
That I don't understand. I'm the only soul in the world that won't understand. So test automation is a hot topic, right? Also misunderstood by me. So what is, according to you, the real value for business app customers, but also for partners?
Yeah.
And do you see it getting overhyped as well, or is it just the new kid on the block?
Great question. I mean, so testing has been happening for years, right? Or frankly, it hasn't been happening, but should have been happening, right? We see lots of cases where during an implementation, a customer is responsible for testing. And so then they have to pull their SMEs off for some period of time to do that testing because those people don't really care about that part of the world. They just want to do their day job and get on with all of the things that they've got piling up in their day. They very, very rarely do it well. And they might skip some things here and there. They might say, that worked fine enough and, move along. And so what happens in that is that not everything gets tested as thoroughly as it should. Bugs don't get found or reported the way they should, and then ultimately make it into production. And a couple weeks, a couple months later, all of a sudden you've got an outage and there's a problem, right? Potentially an expensive problem. In retail, it could be millions of dollars a minute, right? And so, or there is some integration in there that, the team that is responsible for that product is, hey, everything works great in our world. And then the people who work on the main platform, everything works great in our world. And then they put the integration in, make it go live, and something funny happens. And again, you have some sort of an outage, and it's a domino effect that kind of takes out the entire system. And now the entire business is down. And so what we are trying to do is say, okay, let's take the humans out of that. Let's make sure that all of the integration testing happens. Let's make sure that all of what would be typically user acceptance testing happens. And if there is a failure, which we can find in minutes rather than hours, we can then put that back in the developer's hands, let them know through Azure DevOps or whatever CI/CD pipeline tool that they're using, get that reported, get it dealt with, and then test again. Great, we've got a pass. And then we can push the code, push the integration, push the upgrade, push whatever is going on so that you can go to production with a higher level of confidence and not take out the business.
Okay. And is there still a role for the end customer to test something, or is everything automated and click on a button and magic happens?
Yeah, I mean, we would say that test but verify, right? Classic Reagan line. But so what we know that at the end of every implementation, every migration, you're gonna have the customer ultimately accept what they are receiving, right? And so there will be still some level of human testing. That said, you can get rid of so much of the testing time frame by automating it, right? So you can have it run overnight. Everything pass, great. Now we can move along to the next part of the project. I know that we've been talking about the customer side of the experience, and think about reducing your testing time 70 to 90%, which is what we very regularly find. We also find that we're able to do, unhappy path as well as happy path. We can take, what was 100 test scripts that they might run through and now increase it to 400. So you actually get higher levels of test coverage, things like that. We also find that you can bash you can get through a backlog much faster, typically 3 to 4 times faster, so that you're now keeping up with the pace of business and the demands of a business. So that's on the customer side. On the partner side, on the delivery side, what we see is reduced risk, and we see that you're able to stay on timeline because you don't have to wait for a customer to pull their people off the floor, do the testing. Oftentimes testing is going to happen at some inconvenient time, end of month, end of quarter, before a holiday. And so now testing gets delayed while the customer does what the customer needs to do to run their day. The clients, again, don't have to pull their people off the floor to do this work. And that ultimately is going to, because it's automated, it's going to save labor for the partner and be a great service for the customer while also creating that recurring revenue. So it's a really interesting opportunity to take what was this kind of, obnoxious thing that people had to do and turn it into a service that is actually very welcomed by the customers.
You call this a happy path?
Yes. Happy path versus unhappy path.
I heard that term in relate to testing, so that's why it was stuck to my brain, like happy path. It might say it's a happy path instead of a bad
unhappy path. Yeah. So when we think about a happy path, that is the way a process should go, right? Everything works exactly. Everything's done the right way and things are humming along. The unhappy path typically is going to be, well, there's this weird thing that, I need to do occasionally, or, something is tweaked in the process. And so let me do this thing that is going to happen day in and day out in a business, but it's not the way it's supposed to be. Right. And so that unhappy path can pop in there, and we can test scenarios that are common to a business, but not the way the process is supposed to go down. Right.
Well, okay, I can now attend the MVP sessions for, is this still level 100 according to Microsoft?
I think we're level 100. Yeah.
Yeah. I will tag my MVP there that I'm not attending then. Great. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Matt, how long have you been in the Dynamics ecosystem for?
Great question. So I spent 13 years at Microsoft, and in that role, I was I was very broad. I was across pretty much every product that is in the enterprise side of the world. So I was a technical account manager. Think of me as a technical triage nurse. So I was exactly, yeah. So dealt with large enterprise systems and their support contracts, both proactive and reactive. That was for about the first 5 years. And then I became an ATS, an account technology strategist. Think of that as like a CIO, CTO type of role that is account aligned. Again, very large customers, strategic customers for Microsoft. And then the last 2 years, I managed global partnerships, names like Palantir, things like that. So it was a great opportunity. I got to work on some very cool projects during those 13 years. And D365 was always in the mix. What has been a place of learning for me is the business central side of the business. It's kind of fascinating and it's something that I've had to learn because it just wasn't where I worked,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a big difference between the big Microsoft and then BC ecosystem, I presume.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the Danish roots that's causing that, I think. So, yeah. Okay, but so 2 years now in the Dynamics ecosystem, settling in, or?
Yeah, definitely. And what I've found in this world is that the community is phenomenal. I don't think that I was quite aware of just how tight knit it was. It feels like it's a family that you're stepping into, and so I feel like I've married into this really dynamic, interesting, fabulous family. And it's been great getting to know folks at Directions, Dynamics Con, Community Summit. the people are phenomenal, and it's really cool the type of work that they do.
Yeah, no, it's a tight-knit family. I've only been here for 16 years, so I'm still not a veteran, and I don't qualify for that. Yeah, I'm trying to, but nevertheless, I think it's a small community. I think there's a difference also between F&O and BC and CE and Power Ups. I think there's a
Absolutely.
big difference between those ecosystems, but we can mix nowadays. You can mix a little bit, especially, for example, the MS1 was a good mix of all kinds of products. So I think that's cool. Yeah. And you focus mainly on North America or also a little bit on Europe?
Correct. I'm now focused on the Americas, and in my early days here, I did a little bit of work across the pond, but now we've got quite a few good folks over there, so I get to focus here on North America.
Okay. So no directions, none for you then.
Not right now. Unfortunately for me, I don't get the travel miles for that, right? Charlie gets to head over there.
Yeah. And you have never been to Poznan. I don't need to bet, but I already know that you've never been there
I have
because
not.
most
I
people
have not.
have been there.
Yeah.
It's a very small city or maybe village, but
Yeah,
it's very small.
I checked it out. I was like, looks like a very cute place with a ton of great history, but
Yeah. And good shot bar
Oh.
of shots. Yeah, they have a lot of alcohol. But we will send you the pictures afterwards.
well, as somebody who's German, Irish, or Polish, I'm sure that I could deal with my fair share of alcohol there.
Yeah, but enjoy. You need people that can handle alcohol, trust me. So, I just wanted to go to you guys are more now a bigger ISV, right? Because you're growing quite rapidly. But there's a lot of smaller ISVs also around, but also some stagnant ISVs. So they have been around for, I wouldn't say centuries, but from my feeling, it has been centuries, but they're not going up or down and just flatlining. Do you have some advice for them? Because not everybody can jump on the automation train. But what would be your best generic advice for an ISV coming into the Dynamics ecosystem?
Yeah, I think the best thing I can think of is to leverage, if you have a partner development manager on the Microsoft side, leverage them, leverage the programs so that you can get onto this AI train, right? How can you bring AI into your product so that you can, as Satya said when he first came into Microsoft, you must be present to be relevant. And that is one of the best ways to be present today, is to have some sort of genuine AI functionality, not just, hey, sell me this pen, it's got AI, right? Really, it has to be something that provides value, makes the difference in the product, and, ultimately helps serve and bring value to the end customer.
Cool. Okay, good advice. So I want to wrap up this part of our conversation, if that's okay for you. And just some personal questions, just because I can do that. What's the one thing outside of tech that makes you better at your job?
So I'm an avid outdoors person, and I would say that what Mother Nature will teach you is that you need resilience, you need perseverance. That's the way you get to the top of a mountain. And then when you look down from that mountain, you get beautiful views, right? And a sense of accomplishment. And I would say that my time doing human-powered recreation in the wilderness is something that has taught me grit, resilience, and ultimately the satisfaction you get from doing something hard and having an accomplishment.
Oh, you're the next Bear Grylls or anything like that?
Oh, no. I like to have much more fun than he seems to have.
I'm just wondering, sometimes it's on telly and I'm watching it I'm not doing this. Yeah, no, forget about this. No.
Yeah.
Get it. So I'm just checking. I think it's amazing what the guy does, but okay. So explore the outdoors, have fun, and use what Mother Nature teaches and gives us from a physical point of view, but also a mental point of view to be better at your job. I think that's very nice. Yeah, absolutely. Matt, so I met during the residence NA when I was asked to do a speaker slot on diversity and inclusivity. We had a quick chat after the presentation, And one thing that stayed with me, Matt, and maybe I'm a little bit crazy, yes, I know. You said to me, I'm one of the few out bisexual males. Something in that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, what does he mean by that? I understand what it means from a wording perspective, but from a gay guy's perspective, like mine, so it's a man has sex with a man, he's immediately a gay, right? He's not straight anymore, or he is gay curious. But I skip currently. That's why we have this chat to enlighten me more about. And I was like, why does he tell me this so specifically? So can you elaborate a little bit more on this topic? Because I'm trying to learn and to see the broader picture than only my own shallow fields that I have.
Yeah, I think the term is most commonly bi-erasure, right? While the B in LGBTQ is for bisexual, oftentimes it gets forgotten. And I say that because if you're a guy and you say you're bisexual, but this is coming from somebody who's been right? But yeah, I mean, so I love this woman. I have, we've had a child together. I'm very happy in our marriage. And, I've also had interest in guys in the past. And so I would not say that this is something that I simply just haven't admitted to myself that I'm gay. It's definitely not true for me. And I think that that's, a pretty significant portion of the population that is truly bisexual, but oftentimes we are not allowed to be that, right? We're just considered people who haven't fully accepted that they're gay or lesbian. And the truth of the matter is that we have a pretty we like the entire buffet.
Yeah. So that's why it was interesting to me, because me and my gay friends would say he will be gay for a day or whatever terminology will
Right,
use.
yeah.
No pun intended or nothing.
Yeah,
And I think from the lesbian side, it will probably be the same, absolutely. And I was like, yeah, I don't know any open bisexual men until I met Matt. So that's a little bit strange for me. And I was like, okay, so maybe I do know them, but they're not open. So this is an interesting conversation. I know women, they're more open about it in general. I made some wrong assumptions there as well during the session on two ladies that are currently in a relationship with a woman. But I archived it as two lesbians. But I forgot they were married with a man before, so they're actually bisexual. So I skipped that whole part. They did tell me, but forgot about it. Women is more open, for my feeling. I'm not sure if you agree with me, but for men it's more closed. And you were so upfront with it, so you took me by surprise. That's why I kept pursuing you for this interview, because I wanted to know way more for this. So
yeah.
only strange. But did you always be so open about being
No.
bisexual?
No.
When did that change?
So, again, I was blessed to work with Microsoft, and one of the great things about Microsoft is their inclusivity programs and their diversity programs. And for years, they would have stuff going on for Pride, and I claimed myself as an ally and things like that. And then finally I was like, you know what? I'm not going to lose my job. It's safe. I can say something here, and I can, be fully myself. And I don't have to hide that anymore. I don't have to, laugh at jokes that I really don't think are funny. I don't have to, sit back and not step up and claim who I really am. And so it really was the open and inclusive environment at Microsoft that encouraged me to just fully own who I am. And I thought, I joked earlier, I've been shot at by the Taliban. I should be able to at least, say who I am, right? And to me, it was actually much scarier to come out as a bi male, but I wanted to be the change I wanted to see in the world, right? I want younger men to feel confident that they can be this way and that everything ultimately will work out, and probably for the better.
Yeah, I think that's great, Matt, because I think when you say you're married for 18 years, have a kid, I think most, I would assume, I don't know, so that's my limited knowledge of males that I probably know, but I don't know. is that they think that it's not possible to get married or have kids or, I don't know, become okay, or that's just what the gay community thinks. I'm not too sure about that. But I think it's very good that you open up and share this with the ecosystem. I think it's called Pride at Microsoft Pride.
Yes, global.
Gleam.
Yeah, Gleam, the global LGBTQ plus, and then employees at Microsoft.
Yeah. No, true. So that is great. And how do you see inclusion at your current work? Do you see that also going to events? So I always have it's getting better nowadays.
Mhm.
At events in the past, there's always after somebody, multiple people have some drinks. They ask me if I want to go to the strip club.
Yeah.
For you, that would be great. For me, it's no.
Yeah.
Or they ask me where it is. I look like a regular strip club attendee. Don't know. So how does it for you? Because I sometimes struggle with the more religious parts of our community, which is normal, right? There's a lot of different types, but to be as open as I am. So I try to, how do you say that? Stay on the safe parts. I'm not really safe, make a podcast about LGBTQ. So I'm not that safe. So Taliban can find me as well. So no worries on this. But I try to pick my battles. How do you look at that?
So I think that the question started with, how, yes, Microsoft is very vocal about support for this community. Leapwork, we're pretty dispersed, right? Yes, we have a bunch of folks in our Boston office here in the Americas, but I am located in Denver, Colorado, right? So it's not like I'm going to Pride events with them. When I've been at the office during Pride, they've had Pride flags, Pride sticker. So they definitely support the community. Allyship, inclusion definitely is there. And I don't know that it's as big a thing as it would be at a Microsoft, but Microsoft is massive compared to us, right? So it's different.
They don't know that up till they ask you. You want to join that?
Yeah. So for me, it's more of it's about the money and the time more so than anything else. But yeah, I mean, on the religion side, I would say that, I think that we particularly in America have gotten a lot of this wrong. There was an edit to the Bible in the 1940s that introduced homosexuality. It was actually a misinterpretation, mistranslation of pedophilia. And I think that has created a lot of the hate towards this community because Jesus not once says anything about homosexuality, not once. And so if you really look at the original text, there is no problem with homosexuality, bisexuality in the Bible, the original versions. So I think that it's important that if you're going to go to the text, go to the original text and recognize that Jesus had love for everybody. I wanted everybody to know and love him. And if that's your thing, great. But go with what the man said, right? For me, I think that, I have been fortunate enough to have a really interesting life. I've been to war. I've been married to a therapist. I have been able to see how love can change the world and what it can do to make the world a better place. Currently in the United States, where we have a president who is an authoritarian and is doing some very hateful things, and the mood here is radically different than what I grew up knowing. And it's sad to see that hate is currently winning the day. And I hope that more people can bring love and compassion to the world, because that's ultimately what we need.
Amazing, Matt. I want to do a different section or a different one on religion, because I'm fully with you, but I think we can dive way deeper into that one. I think this brings me to the next point, leading by example. If a younger bi male will come around and would be entering the tech or the dynamics ecosystem and think, is there space for me? What would you give him or her? What would be your 2 cents?
I would say absolutely. At the end of the day, the work is what matters, not where you're sleeping or who you're sleeping with, right? And I think that, the important thing is, I'm not a crocheter, but I'm going to support a crocheter in my community, right? There's, it's just something else that you're different, that's different and that you want to, that that is part of you. And I think that all parts of us need to be able to show up. And, I don't think that there's any place in the workplace for, being explicit about a relationship in a way that is not professional. And so I would certainly mentor against being explicit about, what you're doing in the bedroom, right? But who you're spending your time with, who you're in love with, absolutely share that, because other people are going to share that they're going on a weekend getaway with their girlfriend, their wife, or their boyfriend, their husband, right? It shouldn't matter, if you share, yeah, I went to the beach with so and so, or I went to the mountains with blah blah blah. I think that everybody should be able to share that, because that's what lights you up, and you should be able to bring that to the workplace for sure.
I think that's a good 2 cents, and I think we need everybody on deck anyways, not depending on your sexuality. And truly, I believe that the community is way more open now than it has been when I started. I think we should still keep pushing more, but that's just my thinking. Some people are now more against the end, and they call it woke. I don't believe I'm woke.
Yeah.
Craziness. I do want to fight for the LGBTQ rights, but it has nothing to do with woke. It's just with acceptance. Who we are, what we do. You don't have to marry me. Not everybody needs to marry me, but as long as you respect me and fine with me, good. And if you don't want to kill me, I prefer that. If you don't want to talk to me, yeah, I'm fine with it as well. So no worries, but just respect that I'm here. So for me, that's really it. You spoke shortly about allyship, that you first joined the Gleam community from Microsoft more as an ally, and then figured out, maybe you already knew, but you came out as a bi male. Do you have any tips for managers or people that are people managers and that have an LGBTQ plus person in their team? Any tips, tricks that will make sense?
Yeah, I think that as leaders, managers should make sure that they are creating an environment that feels safe for everyone, right? So when that off-color joke comes up that might be offensive to somebody in this community, that should be treated as the same as a off-color joke about racism, right? It should, and as a leader, that manager should, tamp that down, make sure that there's no space for that sort of the sideways kind of hate, right? Yeah. So I think that is an important way for managers to show up. I think that another important way is that if they, are in a one-to-one and something is shared, that to treat it as if, again, that it's, me talking about my wife and I doing something. Well, if it were me and my husband, right, then do anything special about it. But, oh, great. What did you do at the mountains? You don't have to, do anything else, but just go into the story like, oh, how did that light you up? What did you learn from it? Well, what was your experience like? Or if they, have an office event, making sure that it's safe for people to bring their boyfriend, girlfriend, or both, right? I think that that's one of the other interesting things that Microsoft has done on the inclusion side, is that they're now also, and this is as of 5-6 years ago, starting to think about people who are in polyamorous relationships. So I think that we need to be able to, say to somebody, yeah, if maybe it's not just a +1, maybe it's a +2 for a company event, if that's what your relationship structure is.
Yeah. And I just wrote my blog. And it started with you receive mail, because a lot of people think that we from the community receive a mail with a notification if new letters are being added or numbers, or that we get an update, which we don't, just for the record, we don't. I'm not sure who created, but nevertheless, we will be notified somehow, but there is not a mass mailing going out like, Matt great, but we have a new letter. So I started my blog. The letter S is reserved for the straight people if they want to join our diversity and inclusivity.
Hey, there's
part.
there, right?
Yeah. And I said, we reserved the number 4 for polyamorous relationships. Just to came up with a random number, but also I believe always that people think that we know if something pops up tomorrow with a different letter, we don't know that part.
Yeah.
It's not that we don't receive a nice email or a WhatsApp message like, guys, we created a new letter. We don't know that.
Yeah.
I cannot defend all the letters because I wrote my blog about it as well. And I wrote down what all the letters mean, but that doesn't mean that I talk to people from all the letters. So that's why I also do these video podcasts, because I want to understand and learn more. So that is, I'm so happy that you're here on
Thank
that.
you.
With that, you're closing because we're running out of time. So what does diversity in dynamics, this is for our diversity in dynamics and diversity in general, what does it mean for you personally?
So for me, it's about diverse perspectives, right? Everybody, and even, where I grew up in the Deep South, primarily a lot of white folks that come from a certain background, and then a lot of African-American and Black community that is in that area. It wasn't until I went to the University of Florida where I started to mix with folks from Southern Florida, a lot more Latin influence, but new ideas, new culture, new food. And that diversity is actually really pretty awesome, right? And then when you would go to the Plaza of the Americas at the University of Florida, you'd have the Krishnas out there with their, cool food and interesting ideas. And I think that those ideas and mixing those ideas, that's what diversity is for me. Those perspectives and ideas ultimately create something that gets us out of a rut and has innovation allow us to move forward.
Great. And I think for me, it's always a learning experience because I met somebody that was DL. It seems that terminology is more used in the US than in Europe.
Mhm.
And I was ChatGPT, of course, and not Copilot because it was not company data. What it actually meant. So that means down low.
Yes.
Especially in Latino and Black communities for people that are
Oh, yeah.
not out. And that was more an American terminology that for me, an American terminology, and maybe I'm just not connected to this.
That is very much an American term. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, TL, come up with everything. But I'm still learning. I'm 42. I'm still learning every day, also on the diversity part, because there is so much to handle and to discuss. Thank you for giving me a little bit more insight, especially on the letter B. And I think maybe we will talk about the letter R, more depth, religion part. I think there will be a separate session because we can talk for hours on that topic. And I think it will be cool to do that as well. So thank you, man, for joining me. Really inspiring. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I really appreciate the opportunity, and this has been absolutely wonderful for me. Thanks so much for doing this for the community.
Thank you.